You guys always recommend the most interesting games. Seriously, this is one of the most fun videos I've made in a while. I've never had to do the kind of research I did for this, and that really keeps things exciting. Today, we're going to take a look at Freekstyle. Huge thank you to everybody who suggested this. It's been coming up constantly over the last month, and it's been stuck in the back of my head for years, so I'm really excited to talk about this one. Let's get started. Freekstyle, developed by EA Redwood Shores in 2002, is a motocross racing game published under the now-defunct EA Sports Big label. I miss EA Sports Big. It was always like a reflex to let out a guttural BIG whenever I saw the logo. EA Redwood Shores developed a couple of racing games prior to this, including Road Rash Jailbreak, but they're actually most notable for becoming visceral games. 6 years after Freekstyle, Redwood Shores developed Dead Space. Not sure how they got from this to that, but hey, I'm not complaining. I couldn't find any interviews about the development of this game, so I did a little bit of extra digging. The lead software engineer, Michael Romero, was previously the lead software engineer on EA Sports Supercross 2001 for the PS1. Remember that game, it's important here. A ton of the team from that game also worked on this, and there's a lot of overlap. The executive producer Scott Rode recently served as the head of internal production for Horizon Forbidden West, but that isn't even the craziest part of his career. This dude has worked on so many amazing games going all the way back to the early 90s. These days, you might recognize his name from titles like God of War 3, God of War Ragnarok, Little Big Planet 2, Heavy Rain, Uncharted, Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales, Neo 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and about 200 other things. Based on his career, he has a genuine love for sports and games. A giant part of his history is from the Sega Sports division. All of this information makes me so much more eager to play this game. With everything you guys have said, plus everything I've learned about it, plus all the memories I have of reading about it in magazines as a kid, I'm expecting it to be really exciting. EA Sports Supercross is a great game, so this needs to at least cut it close to that. The careers here are similar to other games like this. First, you got Circuit Mode, which will have you compete in a few different multi-lap circuit races around some pretty insane and exaggerated motocross tracks. If you've ever played any circuit-based racing game before, you know exactly what to expect. There are only 6 tracks to race through, but there are 12 stages in the circuit. The stages themselves will have you win 3 races each at 3 laps each across the exact same track with absolutely no changes. Okay, so right away I have a couple of problems with this. Why not just do one big 9-lap race per stage? Why are the races 9 laps? Why is the circuit length double the amount of courses? Why are there literally no differences between each race when you have to race across the same stage 3 times? The final race has an average single race time of 9 minutes and 15 seconds. To play through all 3 stages, the average time is 27 minutes and 45 seconds. To make it worse, you have to play through it a second time for a grand total of 55 minutes and 30 seconds for a single track. That is fucking abysmal. To make it worse, you have to do it all again in Freekstyle mode, and that mode adds a score requirement on top of it. That's way too much padding, and I'm not in for it. I went ahead and used the locksmith cheat code to unlock everything so I could check out all of the maps, because there's no way in hell I'm putting myself through that. Life is way too short. The last kind of career is Freestyle, which isn't really a career. It's actually just 3 maps where you do a bunch of tricks to get the target score to unlock the next map. This is taken directly out of EA Sports Supercross. The mode, the gameplay, the idea, even the 3-minute runs are all exactly the same. Those are just a few of the many things taken directly from EA Sports Supercross. Let's talk about the gameplay. This is a racing game, so you've got your gas, brake, turn, sharp turn, midair weight transfer, and the nitro button. In comparison with other racing games, this one isn't very complicated. You pretty much never have to let off of the gas, and the clutch mechanic from EA Sports Supercross is gone. To build up your nitro, or the boost meter in this case, you have to land tricks. Remember how I mentioned EA Sports Supercross a couple of times? This game is almost a direct copy of that, but with the SSX trick system and much bigger, more exaggerated tracks. You can perform tricks by combining different variations of the shoulders and triggers, and you can modify a trick by pressing the square button. When you've built up enough of your freakout meter on the other side, you can perform a signature trick that'll send you into freakout mode. That's a super boost in speed, and if you can keep it going forever, you can keep it going forever. Literally every other mechanic, including the rhythm mechanic, were taken directly from EA Sports Supercross. Landing perfectly after jumps will give you a tiny speed boost, and that can be helpful to keep you well ahead of the competition, but missing that landing will drastically hurt your speed. You can pull off big air off of ramps by pressing down on the D-pad or analog stick right at the exit of a ramp, and this is fine, it comes directly out of Supercross, but I don't think any FMX game does this better than MTX Motor Tracks. The shock system in that game is just fantastic. When you're driving over rough terrain like sand or grass, holding down on the pad or stick will stabilize you for a bit of extra speed. This was also in EA Sports Supercross, so it was easy to adjust to. Rumble strips are gone because this isn't a Supercross game, and in instead there are rough terrain patches that act similar without the turn distortion. There are many different playable riders, and each rider has a different set of bikes and some unique tricks to set them apart from each other. Many of the riders here were also in EA Sports Supercross. The trick book from SSX makes a return here, which is cool. Filling out the trick book was one of the more fun parts of playing those games. I spent the bulk of my time with this game playing as Brian Deegan. If you don't know who that is, Brian Deegan is a 14-time X Games gold medalist, one of the best freestyle riders in motocross history. He was also in EA Sports Supercross. He was the first rider to ever pull off a twisting 360 backflip in competition. He's also one of the co-founders of Metal Militia, and his son Hayden recently became the first rider to win a Super Motocross Championship. If you want to know more about all of them, I'll leave a link to the Deegan's YouTube channel in the description. One thing I appreciate from this game is keeping the spiked armor costume of Deegan's from EA Sports Supercross. It just looks really funny. The actual gameplay here feels fucking incredible. It's extremely faithful to the predecessor, but it's not the best freestyle game in the world, and there aren't enough races to justify the amount of time you have to spend. There isn't enough game here to keep up with how amazing the gameplay actually is. The repetition and having to play through every course multiple times really hurts how good it all feels. This game needed more race tracks and better freestyle maps because there's almost nothing here. I don't know how big the development window was, but this game clearly needed a lot more time than it got. It's obvious that it was rushed. EA Sports Supercross is so good. It's kind of proof of concept of what this game could have been. This just doesn't feel as complete as that does. Visually, Freekstyle looks great. The art style does a great job of representing everything in a timeless way without becoming such a cartoon that it's unrecognizable. The course layouts are all excellent, and the decision to make the turn walls rideable was brilliant. There are also great obstacles, and there isn't a single thing in this game that obstructs your vision heavily or gets in the way. The attention to detail in each course is amazing. So again, I really wish there were more of them. Or at least I wish the circuit would let you play each of them faster. I like the maps, but having to repeat them 3 times in a row just to move on makes each of them feel a lot more tedious. I don't want to get sick of playing each map, but apparently the game wants me to because it forces me to stay there for a lot longer than I want to be. Life is way too short for shit like this. I think I already said that earlier. The freestyle maps aren't nearly as good as the race courses, and honestly, I would rather those just not exist at all if we could have gotten one more race course out of it. On the plus side, there's no shortage of great announcer voice clips. Before starting each race, you'll get some overview from the announcer about what's going on. Sometimes you'll get a cutscene, but most of the time you'll hear the announcer and get an overview of the course, and it adds a lot of authenticity to the whole thing. That's my favorite part of this game. It actually respects the sport it's based on. It does a lot of things that Downhill Domination didn't do, like making the pro riders the first riders that you play as. One other thing I appreciate is the Crash Pad remake. Even though I don't care for the freestyle maps very much, Crash Pad was one of the freestyle maps from EA Sports Supercross, and it got a complete remake here. It isn't amazing or anything, but it's a lot bigger, and it's the best of the 3 freestyle maps. There isn't any actual FMX footage, which is a damn shame. This game does so many other things to show respect to the sport and the pro riders and the gamers, but the announcers and the trash talk sequences, those are just cutscenes. Not having any real FMX footage means not getting inspired to go out and actually ride. I like that part of games like this, and it's sad to not see it here. I like when the game reminds me that there's more to life than sitting around with a video game controller. This game just doesn't do that. The last thing I want to talk about is the soundtrack. There are a couple of licensed songs here, but the majority is heavy metal composed specifically for this game. The bulk of it is from a group called the Humble Brothers, and as far as instrumentals go, it all sounds really good. You get the occasional lyrics mixed in, there's some DJ scratching and stuff. In most cases, I prefer a soundtrack of licensed music, but this game does a really good job of creating its own super extreme kind of theme. This does hint at something though. It doesn't really feel like EA had much faith in this game. They weren't even willing to risk the music licenses. They weren't willing to give it more time than it needed to become a better game. It barely got any marketing at all. EA didn't want this game to become a success, it seems. And I think that's because they didn't want it to outshine SSX as their flagship action sports series. That's just speculation on my part, but EA is well known for making some really questionable executive decisions, so it isn't totally out of character for them. At the end of everything, I'll go ahead and give Freekstyle a rating of 8 out of 10. I love the gameplay in this game. It's crisp, clean, fun, and really exciting. There are a lot of good decisions in other areas. The race courses that are there are good, and the tricks all feel good to execute. The pros get a lot of respect aside from the severe lack of FMX footage. But it's short of being a masterpiece because there just isn't enough of it there, and what is there takes way too long. What makes that worse is that the predecessor did all of this game's ideas much better. A couple of extra race courses, or better attention to detail in the freestyle mode, or the inclusion of spins, or a more reasonably timed circuit mode with less unnecessary bullshit would have all made such a massive difference. This game had all of the potential to be a masterpiece, and it disappointingly falls just short of that. I can see why so many people love this game. I really like the gameplay, and the love for the sport. It's just the rest of it that really isn't that good. I figure I should probably stop while I'm ahead, because this game is designed in such a way that it would be easy to get sick of very fast, and I don't want to get sick of it. I'm glad I finally got to it, and I recommend checking it out to anybody who never has before, especially if you played EA Sports Supercross. But seriously, you should know about the slog before you actually get there. Nobody told me just how long and tedious this game was. They let me figure it out for myself. This game takes a lot longer than it should, and you should probably know that before you decide to dig into it. This was almost the polar opposite of Downhill Domination. That game had a ton of great design variety and many courses, but no love for the sport. This game had a ton of love for the sport, but no design variety. They're equally long games when you boil it down. They're similar enough to be comparable, and I feel like they both have great gameplay. So if you took these two games, right, all of the ideas from both, and you combine them into one thing, that would be a recipe for the ultimate bike-based game. By themselves, they manage to be above average. Now that I'm done with all of that, there are a few more things I want to talk about before I get to American Wasteland. But for all of you out there waiting for it, I want to let you know that I plan on releasing that as my first video of 2024. You can expect to get it in, at, or around midnight of the new year. That'll give me some time to cover a couple more requests before I finish off the mainline Tony Hawk series. The goal is to cover Wasteland, Project 8, and Proving Ground sequentially. You guys request a lot of games, so I've got a much larger list of stuff today than I had originally, and I really want to get to all of it. So until next time, thank you, and have a nice day.